I'm excited to present the final milestone video for Project Vitruvius, a massive participatory design toolkit focused on making participant workshop selection for urban planners and architects smarter and more inclusive. I'm Satvik. I served as the sprint leader for this segment, leading the website development, including the code base, user interface, and web design. I also directed the underlying logic for the workshop categorization. Here's a quick snapshot on what our website homepage looks like. At its core, it's a tool to help urban designers, planners, and researchers navigate workshop selection complexity with clarity. So, what does it do? This is a web-based tool that helps designers and urban planners find the right workshop by outputting three workshop formats based on two factors: how engaged participants will be or should be, and how many people will be involved. We have a database of nearly 30 detailed workshop formats to choose from. In our early fieldwork, we noticed that while there are many participatory formats out there, people often default to a few familiar ones. We wanted to bridge that knowledge gap and advocate for other embodied and inclusive approaches. The website presents a minimal interface, just two drop-downs and a Find Workshops button. Users can also explore themes or customized workshops if they have specific needs. Here's a snapshot of what the web page showing a workshop looks like. This is the permutations logic table. Each drop-down combination, scale plus engagement, is linked to three workshops through a lightweight JavaScript mapping the system. This keeps the tool fast, flexible, and easy to maintain and update. Our project followed three smart milestones, each with specific deliverables and reflection points. This helped us stay agile and track progress meaningfully. We also ensured that our progress was in tune with our creative practice. Our first milestone involved mapping nearly 30 workshop formats based on engagement, group size, and later embodiment. A third axis we later added after early testing. We incorporated this third axis not in our website, but instead through our embodiment workshops and theater practice workshops in our creative practice. In milestone 2, we launched the first working prototype. It initially had too many filters, which confused a lot of the users. We simplified it to two most intuitive inputs. Our final milestone was based on polishing the UI, refining the categorization, and preparing the platform for public sharing. It is now usable by the community team or planning group. We mapped this toolkit on previous research on real needs in Queenstown and other local planning contexts. Based on our prior talks with groups like Participate in Design, we are sure that they would appreciate the current website's balance of structure and flexibility. Integration with CPX was the most challenging component of all. We expanded our scope to include highly embodied formats, drawing from Mr. Darrell's movement workshop, as well as certain psychological and theater practices that we saw and researched. We expanded all of this into the creative practice component of our project. So to conclude, what did we tangibly accomplish? We are not just presenting some concepts. We built a website with workshop guides with detailed instructions on how to set up, organize the workshop, and lead and conduct the workshop. We also developed a way to categorize all of the workshops meaningfully so that it's ready to be used by the planners. Throughout the project, we grappled with classification gray areas, ethics of who gets to speak, and we learned that toolkits need both clarity and care. This concludes the presentation section of our sprint plan and reflection. So far, we have covered user interface and design. Next, it's time for details on website mechanics and categorization logic. Here are some quick snapshots showing the file management structure, the language used in the code base, and the contributor timeline. In the following walkthrough, my teammates Divya and Disha will take you through the structure and logic of the front-end and back-end code, the rationale behind the workshop categorization, and the future scope for improving this toolkit. The first thing we come across is the user interface and user interaction. This is embodied within the index.html file. The home page is the main entry point into the website. It uses the standard HTML5 structure and is styled with external CSS file system. Here's what the user sees: a clear, welcoming headline and description. two drop-down selectors for level of engagement, low, medium, high, scale of participation, small, medium, large, and a Find Workshops button that triggers the JavaScript function. A resulting section appears in front of the user with three workshop recommendations displayed dynamically. In addition, there are sections for custom workshop options like stakeholder policy, which is the first custom workshop option, and the scenario planning, which is the second workshop option. Theme-based exploration is also possible. This allows user to browse the workshops by focus groups. And finally, there's a footer linking to the About page, which provides more context on the brains of the workshop, about the project in general, and about the design choices made in developing the project website. The UI thus prioritizes ease of use, decision making, and limits the choices by offering deep outcomes. Next, let's look at the core logic behind the workshop matching mechanism. This is incorporated within the JavaScript. So behind the scenes, the project uses a permutation-based mapping system. Each combination of engagement and scale is a key that maps onto three workshops. So this is an example from the README section. You can see that the low and small engagement and scale combine to form one key, which is then mapped onto the focus group workshop, World Cafe workshop, and visual survey workshop. You can see how that's repeated for different combinations of engagement and scale. This logic is then stored in JavaScript object defined in the JavaScript like so. And once the user selects their criteria and clicks the button, the JavaScript grabs the selected values, looks up from the array of this object, and injects the hyperlink into the DOM. That's this element. This keeps the code lightweight and highly maintainable.
Next, I'll be covering the styling and presentation. The styling is done through styles.css and focuses on readability using 20 to 22 pixels font sizes on drop-downs, labels, and result areas. Visual hierarchy, where headings are bolded and clearly distinct. Component clarity. Workshop container uses Flexbox to lay out recommendations. Workshop box adds visual appeal with borders, shadows, and padding. Consistency. The same spacing logic is applied across buttons, labels, and containers. This results in a responsive and legible interface across screen sizes. So moving on to the detailed categorization logic of workshops. We now arrive at the heart of the system, why certain workshops were placed under specific engagement and scale combinations. The classification draws from three guiding criteria: level of engagement, where it can range from low, medium, high, beginning from basic participation like surveys or photojournaling, structured group dialogue with some synthesis, to co-creation and performative involvement. Secondly, the scale of participation, ranging from small to large, from 5 to about 40 plus people, which would range from in-depth workshops to facilitated exchange and layered input methods. Third, cognitive physical spectrum, ranges from reflective and verbal to spatial and embodied expression. Let us now walk through how that maps. So when an architect uses our website, they will have to impute their desired level of engagement and the scale of participation. And based on this, three workshops will be recommended to the architect. So for example, for a low and small scale participation, focus group, World Cafe, and visual survey could be recommended. So this shows the detailed categorization logic of workshops, and this is the permutations table. Regarding the detailed categorization logic of workshops, for example, if we input low engagement plus small scale, the three workshops recommended are focus group, World Cafe, and visual preference survey. Focus group is a semi-structured discussion, verbal and short format. World Cafe is idea generation and it's low pressure. Visual preference survey is rating static images. If you want a bit more bigger scale, for example, low engagement plus medium scale, we could use the fishbowl workshop, structured turn-taking, limited interaction for observers, mind mapping, visual ideation with limited iteration, and the mapping activity, spatial annotations with light discussion. If we want low engagement with large scale, we can use the Speak Out Passport workshop, casual feedback via gamified text dollars, weak with a camera, passive collection of photos with low interaction, or neighborhood drawings, self-expression but solitary creation.
If you want medium engagement and small scale, you have graph visualization, issues table, and video diary. The graph visualization has shared visual insight. Issues table has identifying and building on ideas. And the video diary has reflective but somewhat structured storytelling. If you want medium engagement and a medium scale, you have design scenarios, collaborative design patterns, and a Ghanaian case study from the engineers workshop. The design scenarios have applied role-based design thinking. The collaborative design patterns have narrative sharing and synthesis, and the case study has a simulated co-analysis. But if you want medium engagement and a large scale, there's open space technology, community and engineers workshop, and a participatory housing series. The open space technology has a self-directed emergent topics, community and engineers workshop has role-based reflection, and the last has an envisioning phase. For a high engagement and small scale, there's the modeling workshop, picturization, and sandbox modeling. The modeling workshop is for hands-on construction, personal values. Picturization is a symbol-driven communication, and the last is a tangible spatial simulation. Next is high engagement and a medium scale. You have neighborhood drawings, a group variant of this workshop, participatory housing series, and density block modeling. The first is about emotional storytelling, the second is physical prototyping, and finally, group debate and scale trade-offs. High engagement and large scale, you have open space, which is a festival format, engineers and a community series, and scenario planning. The open space has a cross-group co-ideation. The engineers and community series has a combined storytelling, gameplay, or co-creation. The scenario planning is a simulation across multiple roles and time horizons. This system makes sure that each workshop is appropriate to group size, cognitively engaging at the right level, and designed for equity and inclusion, where all participants can express themselves. About the page and directory structure. The about.html provides a clear mapping table, an explanation for how engagement and scale determine recommendation logic, and design goals that are user-friendliness, scalability, and flexibility. The readme.md outlines the following project files, but each workshop page contains the setup, goals, and downloadables, forming a self-contained module. Finally, here is our summary and future scope. To summarize, the UI and logic are tailored for clarity, scalability, and rapid decision-making. Workshops are categorized using a nuanced logic of engagement, scale, and embodied cognition. Code is lightweight and extendable. Future enhancements for this include AI-generated suggestions, keyword search, dynamic filters like duration, audience, and format, and a feedback loop from users. Project Vitruvius is both a knowledge repository and a matchmaking engine for participatory methods. Thank you.